Hi guys, welcome to my instant match review of the Ipswich Town 1, Tottenham Hotspur 4 game. And it sounds like that was an easy victory for Spurs. I wouldn't put it that way. It was a basketball game from the start. Ipswich surprised me in that they really chose to try and come at Spurs and put us under pressure. And put us under pressure, they really did. But I do always find that if you are willing to take the risk to try and play Spurs at their own game, especially if you have inferior players, then the likelihood is that Tottenham will be too clinical. And that is what happened today. A far cry, really, from what happened at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium earlier this season when Ipswich won 1-0, got a goal, and were able to hang on to that. Today, they were never able to get it because Spurs got an early 2-0 lead. And although Ipswich got the third goal and really put us under some pressure early in that second half, the depth of Tottenham's bench really helped Spurs to push on and get that win. Some good performances from Tottenham. By no means, classic Ange ball, even though it was a comfortable victory in the end in terms of goals and a 3-goal swing. There were bits and bobs where you thought, yes, Tottenham are starting to play their football. Some nice little patterns forming between Destiny Udogie and Son Heung-min again. Udogie was so fresh and it was so good to see him. We've really missed how good and strong Udogie is in that left back space. And that's not to put any shade on Jed Spence, who came in and played again really well on right back. And when Udogie went off after about 60, 65 minutes, Jed Spence went back to left back and did a great job as well. And obviously Jed Spence got his goal as well, which he thoroughly deserved. 2 goals for Brennan Johnson as well. 1 for Deki Kulusevski. All round, just a really good afternoon for Tottenham Hotspur. I will go into kind of my ratings of all the players, but 3 wins on the bounce for Tottenham in the Premier League is something I think it's fair to say 3 Premier League games ago we would not have been expecting. We were all fearing for when Tottenham's next result might come, the next win. But it really has stood us in good stead to get that backs to the wall win against Brentford and then the victory against Man United. And now a really comfortable one against Ipswich. And Ipswich will cause teams trouble. That is for sure. I mean, they've already caused us trouble this year. In big Liam Delap up front, they've got one of the biggest handfuls I've seen as a number 9 since the days of Kane and Shearer. But he's a lot more broody and muscular than Harry Kane ever was. Even when Kane had put on a lot of kind of muscle in his latter days, Delap is just a lot more from the old school, whereas Kane liked to use that in the number 10 position and spread the ball about. Delap, just muscular, loves getting up for headers. And he will be at a bigger club next season, I'm sure. And I would not mind at all if Tottenham put in a little bid for him. But I would imagine he'll probably go somewhere where they're going to pay him the big bucks. But yes, a 4-1 victory away in the Premier League, never, ever, ever to be sniffed at. And a really, really excellent performance. I'll go through my player ratings. Vicario didn't really have many big saves to make. He made a couple in the first few minutes. Ipswich really came at us strong in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of the game. Vicario had to make 2 excellent saves just in the first 60 seconds alone. But after that, they never really cut us open. He had to do a bit of handling, showed some composure with the ball at his feet. There were a few occasions today where he played some dicey balls out into his central midfielder, but that is what he's being asked to do. Ange Postecoglou will himself take responsibility for when that goes wrong. And he played some of those dicey balls. Some of them came off, some of them didn't. And Ipswich won the ball high up the pitch. And people who are a little less glass half full might say, against better teams, you play balls like that into central midfield and get picked off, you will lose goals. But today we didn't. And Vicario, I'd say, played a 7 out of 10. Jed Spence, I'm going to give him another 7.5 out of 10. He got that important goal. Just put in a really good, strong performance. A couple of occasions where he dropped his shoulder to beat men. This happened, I think, early, like in the first 15 minutes of the game. When Tottenham were under quite a lot of pressure, what Jed Spence did really well to take the pressure off was after about 10, 15 minutes, he saw the press was high on him, so he dropped his shoulder one way, beat one man, dropped his shoulder the other way, beat the other man. And as a result, he didn't really get pressed with such intensity again for the whole rest of the game because the opposition were like, okay, we can't do that because he can beat us with pace. And actually, with Spence and Udogie either side, we had 2 fullbacks who were able to beat the opposition for pace whilst dribbling with the ball. And that is something we've been really missing in terms of balance. So that's so good to see. And Udogie, I think we just haven't, because of his injuries, been able to see how good Udogie is for quite a long time. And he played today, even though it was only for 60 minutes, he played today like he did in those first 10 games of last season, where he looked like a proper new modern fullback who can invert, stay out wide, drive with the ball. The things he was doing 1-2s, little back heels with Sonny down the left-hand side, opening up space. Very impressive performance on his first game back from Destiny. And I'm glad he was kind of wrapped in cotton wool. As I've been saying for so long now, I'm just so keen with these players who have been injured and then re-injured. Wrap them in cotton wool. Yes, give them some minutes here and there, but just save them for the Europa League. Save them for the Europa League. If we have our best team out for this Europa League run, if we can beat AZ Alkmaar and then we'll face either Eintracht Frankfurt or Ajax in the next round, we need our best players available for those games. And Destiny Udogie for sure is one of those. So I give him a strong 7, 7.5. Kevin Danso, I'm going to give a 7.5 as well. He was arguably thought he was fouled for their goal. He was maybe a little weak in the 50-50 for that. But other than that, did not put a foot wrong. Showed his pace at times, showed his strength in duels, 50-50s, his ability to read the game. And one thing that has really impressed me with Danso, even though he's a little bit ungainly when the ball's at his feet, it's only how it looks. It's not actually how he is. Because whenever he comes against a man who's pressing him and he hasn't got a pass on, he just drops his shoulder and beats the man. He even did a Cruyff turn to get away from trouble at one point today. So Danso, a very impressive signing. And again, you've got to give some credit to Johan Lange. You've got to give some credit to Scott Munn, to Ange Postecoglou. They haven't got many wrong. And for me, especially if you think about it in terms of a third or fourth choice centre-back, Kevin Danso, brilliant signing and a bit of a steal at £20 million. Archie Gray had to step in again because Ben Davis had a knock and did brilliantly. He is a Rolls Royce of a player. Again, another car analogy. We've had people in the comments talking about car analogies. He is a fantastic player, Archie Gray. Just steps in when requested, when needed, and puts in another 7.5 out of 10 performance. Oh, and I didn't want to mention anything about this, but I've just seen because it's finished, and Arsenal lost at home to West Ham. Hilarious. In their title-winning season, they keep failing. Oh, fantastic stuff. But yeah, just to go back to Archie Gray, absolutely brilliant performance from him. Rodrigo Bentancur, I thought one of his best performances of the season. I'm going to give him a 7.5, 8 out of 10. He was everywhere, sweeping up. A kind of slightly new thing I haven't seen for a long time since the Pochettino days, where Eric Dyer would play defensive midfield, and when we had the ball, he would sit in between his two centre-backs to offer another option. Well, Bentancur was doing that really nicely today, and it worked really well for us. So a good 7.5, 8 out of 10 for Bentancur. Lucas Bergvall, his best performance for Spurs, I thought, today. He didn't start brilliantly, but he really came into the game and showed his fitness in that second half, and he was starting to drop the shoulder, driving through the midfield. What a talent. What a talented boy he is. Him and Archie Gray, the future of this football club for years to come. So exciting. And Bergvall and Danso and Bentancur are up there for my man of the match today for sure. I'm sure Brennan Johnson will probably get it because he scored 2 goals, but he scored 2 goals because of his elite ability to get in at the back post and to wait and stay to time his run perfectly. And it was good to see him doing that. I was surprised that I was really surprised that they allowed him so much space. I thought they'd play a deep block, but they didn't. And as a result, 2 really important finishes for Brennan Johnson. Great for his confidence. He'll probably get the man of the match. I'll give him an 8 out of 10 for that. And obviously, he's coming back from injury, so that's really important too. Sonny, again, I have to say, because I said it all through the watch-along, really impressed with his performance today. Definitely his best game for a long time. Again, showing it's not that his legs have gone. It's not that he's finished. It's not that he's done and he should be sold. It's that he needs rest. And when he has rest in the week, he has improved. And he's definitely improved today. I'll give Sonny a 7, 7.5 out of 10. Some decision-making wasn't great, but his decision-making for the first 2 goals really was. The first one, he flashed across the box for Johnson to finish his first assist. Second one, he really waited, got his head up, waited for the space to arrive. And that's where he passed Johnson in for the second one. So Sonny, really excellent. And then Matthias Tell, I'll just say this. He worked really hard. He's not a number 9 in the Premier League yet. It's going to take some time for him to adapt. He's clearly a very, very talented boy. But listen, when we're playing like this and we get Dominic Solanke back in the 9, we will put someone to the sword. But as I've said for a long time, and I said it earlier with some of these players, just play Solanke. Just play Van der Ven, just play Romero, just play Udogie from the start in the Europa League games. Let's just concentrate on the Europa League. Let's go for a really deep run. Let's try and win that competition. It was amazing to see with having Spence on the pitch and Udogie how much more physical we looked. As you'll know if you watch me regularly, I've been complaining about the lack of physicality in our team. But with Danso, Udogie and Spence in that back line, we just seem a lot more physical straight off the bat. Bentancur in front of them is physical as well. Kulusevski's got his big rump that he can get in the way of people. And yeah, with Solanke on the pitch as well, I think that adds to our physicality. And again, I have to say, it's been a difficult season for Spurs. It's been a long, hard midwinter, but when we start getting our players back fit and you see them when they're starting to form their patterns again and their relationships with their teammates, we've got the makings of a really good squad. We really do. The makings of a really good squad. And maybe it'll be shown that the first time that Daniel Levy has listened to the fans and not sacked the manager when under real pressure to do so, it may well be the ultimate benefit for him. Because at the moment, you have to say these players, they love Ange Postecoglou. They're still playing for him. And yeah, another big win, 3 wins on the spin. Just in terms of the people who came off the bench, Porro kind of did okay. Didn't really see him, 6.5. I'd probably say Basuma came on late, did okay, 6.5. James Maddison did well, give him a 7. Took responsibility when he came on. Was getting his team, when we went 3-1 up to his teammates, to press up the pitch. That was really important. And well played for him. And Odebear came on maybe 6, 6.5. Didn't really have a chance to do too much. But huge win for Spurs. 4-1 away from home. 3 in a row allows us to go into that Manchester City game on Wednesday night with some real confidence. Bit of a free hit, isn't it? Let's see how we do against a big team again. They've been in better form in the Premier League, but they got absolutely done by Real Madrid in the week. Let's see what happens this weekend for them. And look, let's face it, Tottenham are Man City's bogey team, so they won't really love coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And I think the fans will be big time behind us on Wednesday night. I'm looking forward to it. 3 wins in a row, still in 12th place. I think we're still 4 points behind Brentford. But Aston Villa have just dropped down to 10th place, just looking at the table now. Look, if Tottenham can keep putting wins together, then we could find ourselves fighting for all that kind of top 8 towards the end of the season. Top 8 at the moment, currently Brighton in 8th place with 40 points. Fulham 9th, Aston Villa 10th on 39 points. And Spurs in 12th, 4 points behind Brentford. So what are we behind? You know, probably 6 or 7 points or something. But let's just keep a run going. Let's beat Manchester City the week and make another story. And then we have a week between that Man City game and the first leg of the AZ Alkmaar Europa League last 16 game. And that is what we have to think about. Can we make it deep into that? There we are. So we're on 33 points. So we're 7 points off 8th, basically. 6 or 7 points off 8. So it's looking a lot more rosy than it was. That is for sure. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you do press like on this video. Please do subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Come on, you Spurs.